This is our podcast where we belly flop into the bouncy house of mystery, surrounded by conspiracies and unexplained phenomena, with theories so bizarre they may actually make you say,
"Are they thinking with their butt?" Hi, everybody. I'm Katie.
And I'm Chris.
And this is
Stop Thinking with Your Butt.
Hi, welcome back.
Ooh.
Yay.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. So following our new format, we're going to talk about the weirdest thing that we've seen or done since our last recording.
Well, before we go into our new format, if we're talking about formats, I thought we had table etiquette and where your stuff should be on the table. You seem to be violating your half and my half.
Let me significantly move. Hold on a second.
It's okay. No, I'm good. It's okay.
No, it's not fair. Okay, so
as long as you can see.
my
everything.
bad. Okay. We established a half table rule. Now look how empty your half of the table is.
Because I'm prioritizing.
I have
okay.
history of encroaching on Chris's space. We're recording on our super fancy card table that has a crease in the middle, the folding point in the middle. I get the right half. He gets the left half. I am always up in his business.
It's okay.
I apologize.
It's okay. No, thank you for acknowledging that. And let's continue with your awesome weird thing that you found
Okay.
today.
Now
Or
that
over the last
that
week.
I've corrected my space, I saw one weird thing, and then I did a weird thing. And I
Always.
can't stop thinking about it. And I don't know how to fix it.
Does it involve farts?
No, it doesn't involve farts. Praise the Lord. No farts. So number one, I was driving somewhere and I was at a red light and there was a gentleman standing on one of the corners with one of those reusable shopping totes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like the hard shelled kind. So it's
Yeah.
like they weren't like the bags. They were like a little sturdier reusable bag. If you see them at the grocery store all the time, more like a cart, I guess you could say, or a crate. And instead of carrying it in his hand or in the crook of his arm or on his shoulder, he chose to put it over his neck. And it looked like a horse eating oats. It was just an interesting choice.
How far down his neck was it? Was it right in his neck where if he just tilted down? it would
Yes,
be in
like
the bag?
his face was in the bag. And I just thought it was an interesting choice.
It was an interesting choice.
That was very weird. So the number two is, and I need help with how to address this because it's hurting me emotionally and I don't know what to do. So I was taking Pudge for a walk, our pug, and we were on a little nature trail and we came out at the end of the trail into a residency. And it was almost like the trail, it ended in between these two houses. So you kind of have to walk in between these two fenced properties back out to the road. And at the road, I found a ring. A silver ring with like an opal.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was at the end of their driveway. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if they had parked their car, dropped it, and not realized it. So I picked up the ring and I went to the house to knock on the door and be like, I'm sorry, I found this in the street. Is it yours?
I found this sturdy piece of metal in the street.
Yeah.
Is this trash yours?
It was a pretty ring. And I'm like, I could keep this. Like, no one would know. But
Yeah,
I'm like, if it's sentimental,
Sure.
So I'm walking up to the house with our little dog and I come around the corner and there's this big ass dog. Like I thought it was a bear. And upon seeing me, it jumps up and lunges, but it's on a rope, so it doesn't get very far. But it scares me and I drop the ring and it falls between a crack and it goes under the house.
You didn't tell me that. That's awesome.
I was saving it for just this occasion. And then I just yoinked out of there.
Yeet.
I just yeeted my butt out of there.
I feel like you try to do good things sometimes, and they always backfire.
Remember when I practically threw you out of the car to go save a little dog, and then the dog attacked you?
Yeah. I don't willingly go save and rescue dogs, but
So
I'll do it for Katie.
yeah, so I'm at odds.
One day you'll do a
I
nice
couldn't
thing.
make it to the front door because that dog was there. Who ties up their dog in their front yard?
That is odd. No fence or anything?
No. You could not get to their front door without passing this dog. And this dog was not like socially, maybe it takes a while to warm up to you.
Is it like a rough neighborhood type of thing?
Kind of.
Was it like a guard dog, you think? Like,
maybe. It wasn't like a nice part of the neighborhood.
Oh, maybe. Well, you know, no judgment here. Well, I'm glad you tried, all right? It's all about the effort and the thought process. So what are we talking about today?
So today...
And who's talking? Am I talking? You talking?
I'm talking today.
What?
I know. You had a lot of talkie talks. You had a big two-parter that just came out. So now it's my turn to deliver. Today, we're going to be talking about the curious conditions of Anne Flatch.
The Curious Conditions of Anne Flatch. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who is Anne Flatch?
Oh,
I'm assuming you're going to talk about this.
my Lord. I am going to do a shout out. I'm not getting paid for this, but it needs to be said. The TV show, Trial and Error.
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't been out for years now. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It is so good. So the TV show is called Trial and Error. People describe it as being a cross between like Parks and Rec and
The
Office and Case Files, but it's like a combination of like a murder show and a comedy community show.
We'll describe it as like an attorney trying to... I've watched a couple with you. I didn't think it was as funny as you did.
Oh my gosh.
I know you loved it.
It was, okay. My life changed. This is the funniest show I've ever seen in my life. So it's pretty much a small town attorney is trying to win this case. Yeah. But he comes to this town and it's just like a ramshackle.
Yeah, he's like a defense lawyer, right?
He's a defense lawyer.
Oh, I remember that now.
And he's trying to defend John Lithgow, who is being accused of murdering his wife. And his defense is that he was out roller sizing, so he wasn't responsible. And yes, I said roller sizing.
Nice.
So Anne Flatch is the secretary. And every episode, she brings to light another condition that she has, that she's afflicted with. And they are so bananas. And at first I thought they were obnoxious. But
and made up?
Well, I didn't think that they were made up. I'm like, everybody has syndromes and symptoms. But I didn't realize how common some of these were and how accurate. I always thought she was like overplaying some of these conditions, over dramatizing some of these, but she was almost downplaying.
Yeah. Some of the conditions you don't have to overreact.
Oh, and I want every single one of these.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
so we're going to start off with, we're just going to go down a list of some of the conditions. Now, the show was only out for 2 seasons, and I'm going to try to push to get it to come back, because that was seriously the best show ever. It was so funny. I tried to rewatch it actually for research on this episode, and you could only buy it now on Amazon. So
Boo.
I know, I'm like, I wasn't going to do that. It's just from memory, so hopefully I don't go too astray. Here we go. And I'm going to list my sources. Someone needs to write in or tell me to stop doing it.
Stop doing it.
No, because I don't want people to think I'm just making this stuff up, because some of it is just like, clearly she made that up. No. So National Health Service, National Institute of Neurology, Psychiatric Times, Britannica, Wikipedia, National Eye Institute, and Rare Diseases. Those are all my sources. I'm sure there was others, but let's get into it.
I claim nothing. It's all from my mind.
Yeah, you just throw out knowledge and hope it sticks.
Facts don't have to be verified. No.
Facts don't have to be verified. Okay, so the first condition that we're presented with is facial amnesia.
Facial amnesia.
Facial amnesia.
Wait, I want to guess what that is. It's either you don't recognize someone's face, like you just don't have, I can't recognize my mom from my dad or someone. Or, yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah,
that would
so
be it.
That's exactly it. It's the inability to recognize faces, but not just certain people's faces, all faces.
Even their own?
Even their own.
Wow.
Even your own face. So in the first episode, Anne meets Josh, who's the attorney, and they have their first friendly introduction. And from here on out, every time Josh leaves and returns, Anne re-greets him as if it was the first time. And she always gives the friendly smile and the, "Can I help you?" At Josh's frustration, Anne finally admits that she suffers from facial amnesia and cannot recognize anyone by their faces. Anne's continued optimism throughout the entire season only fuels her creative problem solving. She truly cannot recognize faces, but she overcompensates by being really good at identifying other body parts.
Oh, like someone's hands.
Or penises. That's her claim to fame. She admits that she's really good at identifying penises.
That seems inappropriate and very
I'm
rare.
just saying That's what she said. And that's why it was so
get
funny.
it.
Facial amnesia is a real thing, but penis identification, I'm not so sure about.
So if you couldn't recognize someone's face, how would you identify them? Clothing?
You would
Hairstyle?
use like some memory strategies. You try to remember the way the person walks, their mannerisms, maybe their clothing style, fashion sense.
I can tell you for a fact, just because, I was in the military back in the day and we did patrols and walked in the woods and I would have night vision and you may not be able to see who's in front of you. You can 100% tell
who some people eye by the way they move.
By the way they move and the way they walk. I can identify everyone and everyone.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Yep.
So this condition is called prosopagnosia. I'm going to try that faster. Prosopagnosia.
Proxypagnosia. Bam.
Prosopagnosia.
Prosopagnosia.
Prosopagnosia. Prosopagnosia. It's
I won't
called
help her.
face
I won't help her
blindness.
anymore.
Okay, it often affects people from birth, and it's usually a problem a person has for most of their life. It can have a severe impact on everyday life. Many people with prosopagnosia are not able to recognize family members, partners, friends, or even their own reflection or pictures of themselves. Isn't that kind of sad?
That is sad.
They may cope by using alternative strategies to recognize people, such as remembering the way they walk or their hairstyle, voice, clothing, or in Anne's case, penis.
Comedy show, right?
But these types of
But the
strategies...
voice makes sense. I get the voice.
These types of strategies do not always work. And for example, when a person with prosopagnosia,
Just you say the disease.
people with this disease, these strategies wouldn't meet if you met somebody out of like a familiar location or setting.
Yeah.
So it's like if I met you outside of work, I probably wouldn't recognize you right away.
Yeah, especially if you're in a different outfit.
Yeah. Or like out and about.
Mm-hmm.
Some people with this disease can't recognize certain facial expressions. They can't judge people's reaction, age, gender, or follow your gaze because your face is blank.
I wasn't thinking gaze as like gaze.
What were you thinking? Like, gaze!
They're not following my gaze.
Where my queen's at?
Sorry.
You can identify gaze off body language.
They can't observe their gaze.
We love our gaze.
But that would be actually really hard to like.
How do you have a conversation with somebody if you can't read them at all?
Well, I'm just thinking about all the different times when I'm at a grocery store, I see people from work there. And I feel like it would be very insulting if I didn't say hello to them or hi.
And there's been times where I've had that happen. So I almost feel like they have to almost wear a sign that says, sorry, it's not that I don't like you. I just don't know you. Or something like that. So there's two types of prosopagnosia. Oh, that was good. Prosopagnosia. Prosopagnosia. There's two types of prosopagnosia. There's developmental, so you can be acquired from birth, and then there's acquired prosopagnosia. Spooky. Damn it. Where a person develops this disorder after suffering from a brain injury or brain damage that's usually related to a stroke or head injury. Research has found that there's been actually a lot more people diagnosed with prosopagnosia prospagonias than was first thought. So several studies have indicated that as many as 1 in 50 people have developed prospagnosia.
No way. 1 in 50
1 in
have
50.
this?
Some born with the condition may not realize that they have a problem. So it doesn't always have to be severe.
Does it also impact selective hearing?
I'm diagnosing.
mutation?
You now. I'm diagnosing you stat. So that's the first condition that you're presented with when you're watching this show, when you're watching Trial and Error. So Anne's first condition is facial amnesia.
Fun.
The second condition that is revealed is called St. Vitus dance.
St. Vitus dance.
Vitus dance.
Vitus dance.
St. Vitus dance. It's a condition that causes Anne to involuntarily raise her hand. And it is classified as a neurological disorder characterized by irregular and involuntary movements of muscle groups in various parts of the body that follow streptococcal infections.
I feel that if I had that since birth, you would have to be very smart because you're constantly raising your hand in school. And so I would try to brush it off as not my disease, but like, I just know the answer to everything.
Well, it's this condition that makes Anne accidentally join the Marines.
Who wants... I mean, there's a difference between like, who wants free ice cream? Me.
Then she raises her hand and goes, Semper Fi. So this condition is named after Saint Vitus, who is the patron saint of dancers.
Oh.
Some of the patrons would perform manic dancing in front of his statue during the feast of Saint Vitus in Germanic and Latvian cultures. So the manic and spasmodic muscle movement of this disease was named after Saint Vitus as a homage to the saint. To me, I'm a little insulted.
I would be too, but
it's just pretty funny. So Saint Vitus dance is pretty much explosive, involuntary movements. And some examples are moving your fingers like you're playing the piano. I
like how he created an art form of a disease.
I know. And then a tongue fasciculation that they describe as a bag of worms in your mouth. It's like you're constantly moving your tongue. Or motor impersistence. And an example given was milkmaid symbols or signs. Mm-hmm. So grip strength fluctuations, and it looks like you're milking a cow. So those are some forms of St. Vitus dance.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
So a lot of these conditions are...
And how does she deal with it?
Thank goodness. So a lot of these conditions... Well, she joined the Marines. That's how she dealt with it.
Are you limited to just one type of motion, or do you do like multiple things?
No, it's multiple. It's just, okay. It's neurological. So it's anything muscular in the body.
Yeah, it's just telling your body to do certain things.
Exactly.
Okay.
Most of these conditions that I'm going to talk about only last for like short stretches of time. They can be lifelong, but you might have like a 2-week stint with this kind of muscle movement, a 2-week stint with this kind of muscle movement, maybe a few months or years with nothing. It's just intermittent.
Okay.
So the next condition that Anne is plagued with is spontaneous human combustion.
Spontaneous human combustion. That means she dies, right? Like her whole body burns up.
No. Anne's walking around the office and one of her colleagues comes in and notices that Anne's arm is on fire.
What?
And she confesses that she suffers from a localized strain of spontaneous human combustion, and it's activated when she drinks rum. So it's brought out that not only does she suffer from spontaneous combustion, but that she was drinking on the job.
You can't drink on the job if there's a big tail sign of that.
So in her instance...
So this can't be real.
In her instance... The fire is localized and it just affects her arm. And there is no scientific backing for spontaneous human combustion, but it's talked about a lot and through history.
Yeah, it's on X-Files.
Charles Dickens uses it to kill off one of his characters in a novel he wrote called Bleak House. And then a lot of scientists dismiss the theory that spontaneous combustion is a thing, arguing that it's really started by an undetected flame source, like
cigarettes.
They fell asleep with a cigarette, they had a match that didn't fully extinguish, or...
Well, and back in the day, everyone had, like, cotton, right? Everything was flammable. You, like, lived in a Kindle.
Everyone's blood alcohol content was, like, 50%. So it's, like, the chances of there being... Or, like, and then everything was made out of, like, dry wood, hay... Yeah. You know,
fires happen all the time.
Yeah, but this was interesting. In 2010, an Irish coroner, so glug glug glug.
Whoa! Wow! You know that our top third country is Ireland.
Yeah, so they recognize.
Yeah, they probably support it.
Hey, if that's what you're known for, you rock it. So in 2010, an Irish coroner ruled spontaneous combustion as the official cause of death in the case of a 76-year-old Michael Faraday. So for medical sciences to have come this far, and for the only conclusion to be spontaneous combustion in 2010...
That means he probably gave
That's why I did the glug glug glug.
Yeah, he probably did a false diagnosis.
Well, I feel like to say that you are ruling spontaneous combustion is you're throwing your career at that.
Well, I appreciate the open mind of what the possibilities are, because he was looking at the problem and saying, you know what? I'm going to look at this problem as if there are no constraints.
I'm going to look through this bottle.
Wow, you're doubling down on this thing.
I'm going to conclude.
I'm going to conclude what? What you conclude, doctor? Wait, no.
I'm gonna have to edit a lot of that out.
What you got there, doctor? I can't do accents.
So there are no proposed scientific explanations of how a body would spontaneously convert into flame.
Sprinkle the bodies with Lucky Charms. Just throw it in his face.
Put 2 Lucky Charms over their eyes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Something's
okay. All right, we'll move on. We'll fix that.
No, we don't want to fix it. I like it.
So yeah, there's no scientific explanations, but the earliest case is 1607. So it's been around for a long time. The idea, I think that a lot of people fantasize about that because it's an interesting way to go.
It's an interesting term, fantasize about it. That's a little.
Yeah. It's a fantastical way to die, but not like, yay, that's fantastic. More like, yay, like, no, not even yay. Cut the yay. More like, phantasmagorical. Like there's no, it's
just an odd way to die. It's not a fantastical means like, I hope that happens to me. I get whisked away by an angel and taken to the skies.
Fantastic could be
fantastical.
Ranging from fantasy. So fantasy. It could be good or bad. It doesn't have to be good. Just because we commonly lean towards the good side doesn't mean it's good.
Okay, I'll take that.
If a demon crawled out of the ground right now, I would be like, that's fantastic. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of. I feel
like I made my
word choice. I wouldn't use that word, but apparently there's a difference between you can and should. But go ahead. You can use that word.
I can, should, would, could, and did.
Yes.
Fantastic. The next condition that we come across is one of my favorites, the foreign accent syndrome.
Foreign accent syndrome.
Foreign accent syndrome.
I'm excited to hear examples of this.
So in character, after a trip to the dentist, Anne returns to the office with a British accent. She has an American accent to start, just for anybody who doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And she explains that the adoption of a new accent is her body's response to anesthesia. Huh. So between 1907 to the present time, there have been 112 reported cases of foreign accent syndrome. And this is where an American native speaker of English might sound as though they spoke Southeastern English accents, or a native English speaker from Britain might speak with a New York accent. However, researchers at Oxford University have found that certain specific parts of the brain were injured in some foreign accent syndrome cases, indicating that particular parts of the brain control various linguistic functions, and damage could result in altered pitch and or mispronounced symbols, causing speech patterns to be distorted in a non-specific manner.
So I think that's the key there, right? It's non-specific. So it may just sound different. It just may not sound like a complete accent.
So yeah, comes across.
That makes more sense because I'm like.
But then I was doing some research and I was watching some videos and I found a lot of cases. Well, not a lot of cases. I found 3 in particular. One was of a Hispanic woman who was self-proclaimed Texan hood.
Okay.
So like she kind of had like a Texan
twang to her
drawl, kind of she described it as being like kind of dirty. So she had jaw surgery to correct an overbite or underbite. Jaw surgery. After she came out of the surgery, she had developed a very heavy British accent. And it sounds like she was born and raised across the Great Pond. And the next one is Sarah Coble, a British woman, suffered an accident, and it didn't say what the accident was, but on her trip to the hospital in the ambulance, their paramedics said that she sounded Chinese. I listened to she sounds Chinese.
How long does this last for?
This is permanent.
It's permanent.
Permanent.
Do they think that it comes from like a subconscious, like you watched some British movies and so therefore you picked up that dialect just subconsciously and it's stored?
The video or the documentary I watched where there's these patients talking with a psychiatrist and a neurologist trying to figure out the root cause behind these things. And in every instance, the patient exhibiting these symptoms was like emotional because they were so frustrated because everyone thought that like they were faking, they just wanted attention, but they could not stop themselves from making these accents no matter how hard they tried.
I'm just trying to think.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, no, I think it happens. I'm trying to figure out where is it, as you said before, right? It's they speak and it's different, right?
Right.
Is it just so when they speak differently, it just happens to sound like the accent? Or does it mimic the accent and convert to that?
According to Oxford, whatever happens to their brain during whatever they're experiencing, whether it's epilepsy, stroke, seizure, whatever, that the linguistics portion of their brain is affected.
I just figured out where it came from.
Where?
Past lives.
Oh.
It triggered some other.
I think that's a thing. That could be.
That could be very interesting. Their past life was a Chinese woman somewhere.
Yeah. You'll have to watch the videos.
That's
They're actually very, very fascinating.
You're welcome for that theory.
Yeah, you're welcome. RB, thank you. I'm welcome. You're welcome. We're all welcome. Thank you. The next condition we come across or that Anne experiences is the involuntary emotional expression disorder.
Involuntary emotional expression. Okay.
Do you want to give a guess as to what you think that is?
So obviously involuntary emotional expression. So they'll respond randomly to certain things. So if I say, "Hey, how are you today?" they'll start crying. Or if something sad happens, they may not be sad. They may be happy or confused.
Good
or something
job.
like
So this is the uncontrollable episodes of crying or laughter that are exaggerated or incongruent with the underlying mood. In addition, sudden angry outbursts may occur. These episodes are often embarrassing and can be socially debilitating for the patient. There are roughly 2,500 reported cases, but no known cause. The theories to the cause are anywhere from damaged neurotransmitters in the brain to a disconnection between the frontal lobe, brainstem, and cerebellum. So it's all brain related. But the disorder is hard to diagnose because it presents itself in conjunction with so many other varying diseases that it's hard to pinpoint if the disease is standalone or if it's an effect of some other disease.
Like a different symptom.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. And so Anne first learns that she has this neurological disorder after she witnesses her grandmother falling out of off the balcony, and she can't stop herself from laughing. So
Horrible.
She's staring deadpan at the camera, and she says, "My grandmother fell off the balcony and landed on the car." And then you can see her struggling to like keep composure, and then she just laughs and laughs and laughs and laughs, and it's really, really funny. So Anne also experiences uncontrollable laughter fits after hearing bad news. In the instance, she hears two characters discussing the case on how the potential murderer had roller skated through blood, and Anne could be heard laughing hysterically in the background because she's been eavesdropping.
It's like a coping mechanism too.
Yeah, yeah. So some people say that they laugh at funerals. Some people say that they, cry when people are celebrating. It's just a different way. It's just how your body's wired to react.
I feel bad for Anne so far.
Yeah. Oh, but she's so optimistic and so positive.
She's rolling with the punches.
She really is rolling with the punches.
Good.
And
then what else?
And this one she rolls with, and it is amazing. It's called blepharospasm.
Blepharospasm?
Blepharospasm.
Okay, what is it?
Blepharospasm. It usually starts with small eyelid twitches that happen every once in a while. So you know that experience when you're overtired,
or if you're stressed. Yeah, your eyes
So you'll
twitch.
experience those twitches, and they just keep happening more and more often and lasting longer and longer, and eventually your eyes will close completely.
Okay, I didn't know there were severity levels to it.
And you'd have to get injections in the muscles around your eyes to like alleviate the symptoms.
It's like you need like Botox.
It's like Botox.
Just keep it from not moving.
Yes, exactly. And that treatment can last 3 to 4 months. But due to this disorder, there are extended periods of time in which Anne can be seen walking around the office with her eyes closed.
Okay.
But to make up for this, her daughter always paints fake eyes on her eyelids.
What?
So she's trying to not be obvious that she's walking around blind. And the results are horrifying.
I feel like you could just wear sunglasses or something.
Maybe.
Paint.
The drawing on the eyes was actually really awesome.
Have you ever had experience of any eye twitches for stress or whichever?
I had a while. I almost went to the doctor. I've had my eye twitch for like a month at a time once. I think my sister-in-law has too. What's the longest you've had an eye twitch?
I don't know. I may for a couple of weeks, but it all depends on what is kind of going on work related, because I do, a lot of stressful work or whichever, and so I may get a little bit. And then that's like my physical cue that I need to calm down not even calm down, but I just need
a bath.
Yeah, I just need to relax and don't let things get stressed because I don't want my body to physically attack me.
Yeah, it's your body's way of saying chill out.
Yeah.
So about 2,000 people are diagnosed with blepharospasm each year, and the treatment, like I said, involves injections around the eyes to alleviate the symptoms for up to 4 months. The next condition is Stendhal syndrome.
Stendhal syndrome. Okay, let me guess. Stendhal syndrome.
Or Florence syndrome.
Ooh, that something to do with like stiff bodies.
No, quite the opposite.
Okay.
Limp bodies.
Limp bodies. Hey, see, so...
It's a psychosomatic condition involving rapid heartbeat, fainting, confusion, and even hallucinations that is brought on when an individual is exposed to beautiful art.
Sorry, let me go back. I don't even get a half a point for that. I was way off.
Yeah, no. When they see something beautiful, they faint.
That's awesome.
So,
if you had that everywhere we go, if you saw
I'd be
a cute
fainting.
animal,
I'd be on the floor.
I'll just see you down. I'm like, "Where's the dog? Where's the cat?
Yeah, you
get it out of my sight."
My body would be a tell before you had any idea what was going on. So this reminds me of there's a movie called The Selling.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when the real estate agent is trying to sell the haunted house, and the priest comes in to exorcise it, and he goes, "Oh, that stained glass is beautiful."
Yeah. They think he's being attacked.
They think he's having a heart attack, and he's like, "Oh, that stained glass is beautiful."
Yeah.
So fainting at the sight of something beautiful due to being overwhelmed by the subject's beauty. And Anne experiences this when she's walking through the courtroom hallway and she's overcome by the beauty of a painting and she passes out. Is this making you want to rewatch the show at all? Yeah, okay. It's not for everybody. It's totally for me.
No.
For me and my people.
I can see how that disease, I think, would be really horrible because art and beauty is also very subjective. So it's not just one thing you got to watch out for, because you can see a beautiful flower or a sunset or your kids or something else right there.
It's debilitating.
That would be horrible.
It's debilitating. You couldn't be able to do anything. You'd have to be a horror fan for life, which I'm okay with.
But then you could find the art in horror. Oh, look at the blood splatter. It's beautiful. Man down. The next condition is the jumping Frenchman of Maine. The jumping Frenchman of Maine. That's very specific and elaborate.
I know, and I love it. So the jumping Frenchman of Maine is an extremely rare disorder characterized by an unusually extreme startle reaction. The symptoms of jumping Frenchman of Maine usually begin after puberty or during the teenage years. Individuals affected by this disorder display an abnormal and exaggerated startle reaction consisting of jumping, screaming, flailing the arms, hitting or throwing objects.
What triggers it?
Being scared.
Oh.
If I were to come up behind you and make a loud noise, you would not just like jump a little bit. You'd like break things.
It would be
chaotic. Funny. A startle reaction is caused by sudden or unexpected stimulus, such as a loud or unexpected noise, a sudden command or gesture, or unexpected physical contact, such as a sudden poke in the ribs.
They would not do well in the military.
Yeah. Originally, the jumping Frenchman of Maine was identified in the Moosehead Lake region of Maine among French-Canadian lumberjacks.
I feel like they would not be nerves. Well, nerves of steel.
I was like, lumberjacks are like hardened.
Yeah, stereotypical man.
Yeah, but I'm like, maybe there was something in the tree sap. You know how like hatters were like mad hatters because they were using chemicals. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, maybe there was just something in the like some fungus in the tree or something. You know how like there's things that grow
Or-
that can be like hallucinogenic?
Maybe you had to be aware of falling trees at all times. They were in a
So they were
constant
hyper alert?
They were just in a constant state of caution for
Of
an
tree
extended
falling
period of time. So if it's almost like PTSD to an extent,
Can
right?
you
If I hear a loud noise, you may think it's a gunshot and you may react, "Oh my god." Ah! And you're like, you're at a grocery store, stop it, get up.
Yeah, there's no trees
Yeah.
in
So
the mall. Calm down.
but I'm
Yeah, so that's that. So originally, the jumping Frenchman in Maine affected men more often than women. The disorder seemed to have been common in the lumber camps of the region during the 19th and early 20th centuries. However,
when was discovered? What year?
I don't know. It just says early 19th. No, the 19th and early 20th centuries. Similar behavior has been observed in specific isolated populations in Louisiana, where it's been coined the Raging Cajuns, or in Malaysia, where it is called the Lata. In Serbia, it's called the Miracit. In this particular episode, Anne is startled by something and she bursts out of her chair and bounces off the ceiling.
Oh. So she went beyond the physical realm and was able to.
She like left her body and like reconnected with it on the ceiling and then hit the floor. The next condition is the Alice in Wonderland syndrome.
Where you believe that you're somewhere else that you aren't?
No, you believe that things are bigger or smaller than they really are. So the Alice in Wonderland syndrome describes a set of symptoms with alteration of body image. So you'll perceive yourself to be bigger than you are or smaller than you are.
I feel like a lot of guys have this complex.
I wrote it down. 10 to 20% of the population suffer or have suffered from Alice in Wonderland syndrome in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like gym guys.
They'll be like, "Hey, that's a big foot you have."
Yeah, or like, you know, like, what's it called? Body dysmorphia, where it's like you just see yourself as being bigger than you are or smaller than you are. This specifically...
Cause a negative, yeah.
Mm-hmm, this specifically is an alteration of visual perception is found in the way that the size of body parts or sizes of external objects are perceived. The most common perceptions are at night. So it's almost like night effects.
At night.
I can experience,
interesting.
well, I don't necessarily, it's not necessarily a Alice in Wonderland syndrome, but like at night, I have a problem with lights. So I could see like a nighttime thing because lights affect me at night. So in nighttime instances for people suffering with the Alice in Wonderland syndrome, they have a problem at night with the size of things.
Yeah, so it's not just your body; it's anything, right?
It could be anything. Yeah, it could be anything. But
Okay. Imagine merging into a lane and maybe you think that the vehicle's further away or closer away.
Or closer away. Mm-hmm. The syndrome manifests as an inability to properly perceive the size of things. The syndrome often presents itself in patients who suffer from epilepsy, migraines, or head trauma. 10 to 20% of the population suffer or have suffered from Alice in Wonderland syndrome in their lives. So Anne's experience with Alice in Wonderland syndrome is when she's approaching a gigantic door and feels that she must get on her hands and knees in order to crawl through it.
Do you feel like you've ever had that experience?
Only with clothes. Sure, I could fit into that.
or meals? I could eat that.
I could eat that. Yeah. Why did I eat that? I'm going to throw up. Okay, and the last one that I'm going to talk about. It's not the last one that she has because there's 2 seasons and they go on forever and there's a new condition every season. I mean, every episode. But this last one is lagophthalmos. Nocturnal lagophthalmos. Nocturnal lagophthalmos is the incomplete or defective closure of the eyelids. So it's the opposite.
Half closing.
It's the opposite of blepharospasm, where your eyes close permanently or for lengthened periods of time. It's the inability to blink or effectively close the eyes at all.
Just like if you, like almost like you have paralysis in your face.
This disorder allows the afflicted to sleep with their eyes open.
They're wizards.
And as Anne says, of my many gifts, this one helps me the most at my job. It cuts to a clip of Anne snoring in her desk chair with her head tilted back and her eyes wide open.
That reminds me of Major Payne.
Oh, yeah.
The kids are trying to sneak into his room to get a picture.
Yeah. Sleeping with his eyes wide open. So those are
Well, out of all the diseases, I feel like that's not nearly a bad one to have. Now, I mean, I guess your eyes would dry out, so I don't know what the negative impact that is.
In real life, your eyes would dry out and you'd have problems with your cornea and things like that. Like this, Anne Flatch, all of her conditions, she makes them seem very optimistic and not necessarily a burden, but a gift. But in real life, they would all be very problematic for the
Yeah, we won't downplay
suffering.
people who actually have these diseases.
Correct. I'm like, some of these are funny to research, but would be horrible in real life to have.
Yeah, we're not saying that you should want to have these diseases.
Except for maybe the jumping Frenchman of Maine or the foreign accent syndrome.
Can you imagine think of how many times our kids have jumped out and tried to scare you or me or each other?
I've lost years off my life.
Yeah.
Every time the kids jump out and scare me, I feel like Wesley from The Princess Bride. No, the six-fingered man from The Princess Life. I just drained 1 year of your life away. Not up to 50. That's when one of the kids get hurt, and I panic.
Yeah, and they know not to jump and scare Dad.
Because you're scary. The one time, well, I've done it several times.
I'm just always
now.
prepared.
Every time I try to jump out and scare you, when I don't put thought behind it first, I almost get a punch in the face. You're not fun. You don't know how to play.
Yeah, I don't know how to play, but I am fun.
Fun in the sense of like, when am I going to die? Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Who knows? The thrill. The thrill of living.
I keep
with
it
you.
interesting.
It's never dull.
Keep it interesting.
So those were the curious conditions of Anne Flatch from Trial and Error.
Have you found in your research, has anyone had more than one symptom?
Oh, like more than one of these weird conditions at a time?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have seen that, but I can't recall. I don't think any of these. I think that I'm trying to think of what it was. It's like certain people with like maybe obsessive compulsive disorder might also suffer from, I can't put my finger on it, but there's usually more than one.
Yeah, or they may have one of these diseases that you just talked about, but they have other underlying issues in addition. Like you just said, like the compulsive disorder disease, or they may hear voices, or they may do other things.
Often a disease or condition will lead to the onset of others. For example, people with PTSD might develop agoraphobia. They don't want to leave their home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's certain things might go hand in hand. So like the Alice in Wonderland syndrome, maybe they don't want to go upstairs because they can't differentiate height levels or things like that.
Do you think they know that?
If they've been diagnosed with it, then they would know.
Yeah, but let's say they weren't diagnosed. Do you think they would recognize that something was going wrong? Whether like it's the stairs or it's the statue thing?
Well, in Anne's case, when she was trying to crawl through the jumbo door, she really thought the door was small. So she was crawling through the door. And everybody was like watching her crawl through this gigantic door.
And then she realized it's not. Funny story time.
Uh-huh.
So that reminds me of a little bit when I was at Ranger School and we were on sleep deprivation. So we would only get about two hours of sleep a day in the field. And we had a lot.
Is this when you thought the soldiers were floating in the trees?
Let me tell the story.
You can ruin my story, but I can't ruin your story.
No, you can't. Must sit patiently and wait. No. A lot of sleep deprivation. It was in Georgia, so it was raining a lot. And so we had to do lightning drills. And so we're walking, and eventually I hear someone say that we were doing lightning drills. And I'm looking around, and I'm seeing all the soldiers around me take off their clothes. Right? They're stripping down. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, that's a weird, that's a weird lightning drill, but whatever, right? Because
that's a weird approach to the situation.
Hey, but
what do I know? I'm just a soldier.
Tired. We're just, I'm tired. I'm doing, what we need to be doing. So I start taking off my equipment. I start taking off my shirt. I'm unbuttoning my pants. And as I'm looking at the soldiers around me, they like mirage, bloop, bloop, and they're all fully clothed. And I'm the only one who's like stripped halfway down. And I'm like, this is very awkward. And I start putting all my clothes back on. But it was just that real. Nope, I don't think anyone realized it. But
because they're all just as tired as you.
They're tired, but that realization that you were seeing, even though you saw it or you think you saw it, it was not happening. And I literally saw them change mid.
Yeah. You have a talent. You know how people are like high functioning alcoholics? You are a high functioning
Tired person.
sleep deprivation. Yeah. Sleep depraved.
Sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would admit that.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was funny where that it's
I
just
said
that
high
realization.
functioning. I didn't say efficient.
Touche.
I'd be like, get off the roof. I'm just hanging lights.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for that confidence. But either way, just that envision of something that you thought was happening and then it wasn't. I experienced that. I don't know if you experienced anything related to that.
Not off the top of my head. I got conditions though. I'm broken AF. No, so I don't know. That was fun.
So what's your final thoughts and feelings of the situation?
Final thoughts and feelings. Phone a physician.
That's your takeaway?
That's your takeaway.
And potentially watch the show and see if it's
Oh my
actually
goodness!
funny.
And watch Trial and Error.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll regret it.
And if people like this episode, we may do a part 2 and do season 2 of all her
conditions.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about the conditions because they're pretty exciting.
They are just amazing. So with that, if you have any thoughts, feelings, or if you watch Trial and Error and want to tell us all about it, why don't you send us an email? stopthinkingwithyourbutt at gmail.com. All one word, all spelled out. You can follow us on Instagram at stopthinkingwithyourbutt or contact us on Twitter at stopthinkingwyb.
No, awesome. Well,
yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that awesome story.
Yeah. All right, everybody, stay curious.
And stop thinking with your butt.
Out. If a demon crawled out of the ground right now, I'd be like, that's fantastic.